Welcome. Thank you for being here, Sarah. It's really lovely to get to speak to you properly. I've been following your progress in entrepreneurship and social media, I think since you made the transition into entrepreneurship. When was that now?
It was back in 2021, July.
Yeah.
Already a year and a half.
And how are things? Could you tell us a bit about that transition in your life and why you decided to become an entrepreneur and start your own business?
Yeah, I think it's just so interesting how it all came up because it's never been a plan really. It's just that as I really started to expand my visibility on social media, I realized that people just started to reach out and ask for either advice or, or for if I was providing any kind of services. And at the time, I was just like, no. I mean, I'm working in house. I'm just posting because I just enjoy, making the legal industry a better place, and I'm just a nerd, right? But when you have that, one time, two times, three times, it got me thinking. Okay, there might be something, if I can find the right package, if I can, manage to get a feel for what people need, there might be a potential market for, whatever I'm passionate about. And I think at the same time, in my in-house legal career, I was also, I don't know if I was getting close to my 30s or I don't know, I was just having like some sort of deep evaluation of how far I had come, but also I just realized that I was applying for other jobs in-house and it just wasn't, I just couldn't see myself doing it again elsewhere. So those two things happened at the same time, a realization that I needed a shift in my career and also the realization that people do not just enjoy what I have to say on social media, they are also interested in what I could do for them. So that's the junction of the two has made me consider, look, I mean, give it a try and see how it goes. And I might never become the next Zuckerberg, but you have all sorts of entrepreneurs. You don't have to be, you don't have to, run £1 million business to be very successful and make a living at the very least. So
that's what I love about entrepreneurship as well. And I've seen some people say on LinkedIn, you have to be doing 60 hours a week if you're starting a new business, or you're just not going to be successful. You have to do this, you have to do that. And I don't follow any of that because I think it's all about what you want it to be. And that's the joy of building something yourself. I mean, my business is alongside uni. I'm doing a day and a half a week. That's certainly not your 40, 50 hours. And I'm earning a really good part-time salary from it. Like, it's just setting your own goals and doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name Law But How? Because that's a really interesting name. It always catches my eye. Where does it come from?
It comes from the Wait But Why blog. So it's my favorite blog. I don't know if you've come across it, but
I haven't.
It's a really famous blog where they just share all sorts of wisdom about life, and in a way that is very witty, that is very funny, and I just love it that they just question everything in life, but in a way that kind of makes sense. And also like they just talk about business, they talk about entrepreneurship, they talk about what it is like to grow up. And I don't know, it's very philosophical but without being cheesy. Like it's very practical as well. So I kind of like the spirit of the blog, and I was like, maybe the wait but why of legal could be this, could be the law but how, and how can we do things differently in the legal industry, and in an industry that has never really changed drastically.
In terms of social media as well, one of the questions I get asked the most is, I want to start making legal content on social media, but how do I do it? So it just so perfectly sums up this question that everyone's asking.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. How can I deliver legal services differently? How can I convey legal information differently? That's the how. That's the, the new ways of doing.
Yes. And
definitely.
how has personal branding played a part in this journey, posting through your personal social media pages? You said before you started posting and people started asking you questions. Walk us through how that's been side by side, like kind of step by step alongside your business growth.
It's been fundamental. I think, like Global Health could become another name tomorrow, and I don't think it would impact me in any shape or form. And that is because, I've built a personal brand before even building any form of business. And that was because I just posted about my personal opinions on things, about my personal way of doing things. And I think that was the start. Way before doing any form of service, I built my personal brand on social media by just, providing personal insights and value. And it's been a tremendous help, not only in my transition from being an in-house counsel to running my own thing, but also to grow my network, to grow my visibility. Like, it's been so fundamental. And, for me, like, before even building an actual business, you have to really consider building your personal reputation online, which is what personal brand is for me.
It's that thing of know, like, and trust. If I come across somebody online and I get to know them and I feel like I like them, I like what they're saying, I'll start to trust them. And then when eventually it comes a time I think, oh, you know what, I want to learn more about legal design, I know to come to you. It's already established that they're the person I'm going to go to for this service when I need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people just watch in the background and you have no idea. And I can't even tell you the amount of times people have come to me. They've never engaged with my content. They've never liked, they've never shared, they've never commented. And they just reach out of the blue and they just say, oh, hey, I've been following you for years. And I'm like, where were you? I have no idea, So that's exactly how it works. Like, just because people don't engage doesn't mean that they're on there watching and they won't consider you eventually when they have a need. But it's just doing that background work to get there.
Yeah.
And as you said, building that trust as well.
And why do you think some people are like that? Because I've had it a few times as well. An inquiry has come in my inbox from a lawyer. I've never seen them like anything, but they've said they're enjoying my content or this, that, and the other. Why do you think it is that there's still a lot of legal professionals on social media who are very happy to be there, read things, look, but they won't interact at all?
I think it's not yet fully mainstream for lawyers to use social media for themselves. And so let alone just engaging with other people's content. And even though it's a lot easier, it's a lot easier to engage with people's content than creating content themselves. So I think we haven't yet reached that level where it's just part of the, of the day-to-day networking habits to just comment on people's content. I think the people showing up on social in the legal industry is still a fairly small majority of people. But we can see more and more people showing up. I can see more and more creators as well in the legal industry showing up all the time. So things are definitely changing, and legal professionals start to appreciate that it's a must to be on social media in an online world, that there's no two ways about it. And it's much more effective as well. But it's the mindset shift. It takes a while. So I think that's probably why.
Do you think that the landscape will change as more and more legal professionals get active on social media? Because, for example, LinkedIn is a really good place to be a content creator. There's way more users than there are people creating content, let alone good quality, engaging content. So, the more people in your niche or in your field that start being active, the harder it's going to be to stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a long way to go, because I think on LinkedIn you only have 1% of creators, which is ridiculous when you look at the organic reach that you can have the potential on LinkedIn, and bearing in mind that this is where all the decision makers are as well. I just find that really, I mean, I think it's a shame, in my opinion. People aren't leveraging it, but things are obviously changing. When I started in 2018, there was no one, absolutely no one. I was probably the only lawyers just posting stuff on there. So, and now obviously, I think we are looking at a few thousands of creators in the legal industry that I know of, at least.
Yes.
So it will become mainstream, but I think in our industry, people follow the trends anyway. We aren't native early adopters. You know, we just follow whatever is mainstream. So there's been the early adopters of the content creation space, and now you can see that, you know, people have started to engage more and show up a bit more as well. But yeah, it might take another maybe year, 2 years before it becomes a bit more crowded. But I think regardless, you know, there is food and beverage for everyone. You know, I think you just have to find your own way of standing out. There's only one version of yourself, and I think it doesn't matter how many people are out there, you can still shine and thrive.
I think that's partly why I've enjoyed being on social media so much, and building a personal brand has worked well for me. Is I kind of had this confidence from the beginning that I knew what I wanted to say, and I started actually creating content. I think it was 2020. I think it was 2020 when I started properly showing up, and I wanted to talk about mental health in the workplace. I already had a perspective and a view that I wanted to share on it. So I think whatever it is that you're talking about, when you can figure out and trust your voice on a certain topic, not saying you have to be opinionated or controversial or anything like that, but it's just knowing what your unique perspective is, because we all come at everything from a different angle, even if we're talking about the same thing. And I think we all have some kind of value to give. So I like helping lawyers kind of, I don't know if confidence is the right word, because they tend to be really confident people, but just that awareness that they've got something unique and valuable to bring to the table, and they should talk about it. We want to know.
Absolutely. They have a very, I mean, legal professionals have such a superpower, you know, like the unlocking the understanding of the law and being able to break it down to, you know, people outside the industry is a superpower that is very underrated. The law is so complex and so dull, and there is so much potential for any professionals from any practice area to really demystify it and build that trust on the back of this expertise. So it's coming, but it will take a while.
And how can they do that using social media? I've seen some of the designs that you've created. I love them. Every time you post something, I'm like, oh yes, Sarah's posted something. I have to sit down and read it. What's she done? You're so creative with it, and you really do take complex things and make them understandable. If you're a lawyer, say you've just started your own law firm, and you want to be able to do this on social media, you want to demystify the law, how can you do that through posting on social media?
Yes, so I would apply the codes of social media to the world of legal. And what I mean by that is, obviously every platform has a very particular way of posting. So on Twitter, it's going to be much more text-based, very short and strong type of posts in the written format. I mean, but I do post my visuals there as well, and they tend to work, but it's not going to be the go-to platform for visual assets. Visual assets would be more for Instagram and LinkedIn. So I think you need to identify the platform, all the platforms, by the way, you want to thrive on. Personally, for me, it's going to be LinkedIn, and LinkedIn primarily because I'm in the B2B space. I work with legal professionals. Instagram more as a secondary platform for the younger generation to know what I do, so that when they obviously grow up and evolve in their career, they become a much more targeted audience. But Instagram really comes second. So pick your platform, and then obviously the mediums come So LinkedIn, what works really well is obviously written posts work well. It's not my favorite, but some people really manage to do it well. I love visual because of this is how you can stand out in a very easy manner. And the brain absorbs 90% faster visual information. So that's just the way to stand out easily. And that's actually the lazy way of creating content.
I had someone say to me, a lawyer say to me the other day as well, the reason she loves visual content is because she spends all of her days reading things, reading. So when she goes onto social media, actually, if she doesn't have to read anything, it's way better for her.
Exactly. Yeah. This is, I mean, the average attention span on LinkedIn is 8 seconds. So it's a really short amount of time, and it's a bit longer just because on LinkedIn the content tends to be a bit more serious and interesting, I would say, in terms of the actual value. So that's why. But if you look at Instagram, I think it's 2 or 3 seconds. So you have a really short amount of time to stand out in people's mind and feed.
Yes.
So, and all the written posts look the same. The only difference is going to be the name, Bob Smith and John. Like that's the only difference, literally. But so that's why I love visual for this particular reason as well. Then you have videos, short version, like 1 minute, 1 minute 30 seconds maximum. That work really well as well. I'm a personal fan of visuals, but I think that's you just need to understand the codes of each social media and adapt your communication accordingly.
I like thinking about it as a code because it can be quite overwhelming when you're picking your initial platforms. There's a lot of pressure for people to be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
And, I think, no, just think about how much capacity do you have for this? Choose 1 or 2 platforms and just focus on those because it's too much trying to do everything.
Oh yeah, 100%. And perfection is the enemy of the good. Trying to be everywhere, and you just can't physically do that. And that's why I'm not as present on Instagram now, because I just know that LinkedIn is my platform, is where I get the most engagement. This is where all of my leads come through. Like this is just so I use it knowing that I'm never going to be fully 100% on it, but that's okay. We have to pick a battle. So I definitely agree with that.
There's a good way to be. I mean, that's pretty much the same for me. LinkedIn's my number 1, Instagram's my number 2. Instagram, to be honest, I only do because I find the platform fun. I really like the reach you can get from video on there's great. But yeah, LinkedIn's a special place because for the legal industry, it's kind of where everyone's showing up. So a lot of the designs that you do, they're really creative. I've seen a few different ones now. So you did one that was breaking down a concept into a football game.
Yeah.
You've done some really creative things like that. Where do you get those ideas from? And how can lawyers come up with these really creative ideas to visualize legal content too?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think personally, I've looked at inspirations from other industries, and I love infographics. So when I came across a guy, it was years ago, and he would demystify digital marketing concepts through infographics. And that's really how I got inspired. So that was my first source of inspiration. And I thought, wait a minute, this is brilliant. Like if I could do that with legal concepts, this would make the legal information a lot more easier to engage, nice. And ever since, I mean, obviously, icebergs and burgers and football. I've had the PS. There was one on like a PlayStation type of a controller. Like I've done all sorts. But it all
contract as a pizza.
Yeah, the absolutely. Yeah, the pizza, the privacy pizza. Yeah. All sorts. And so it all started from there, inspiration. So looking at what others are doing and taking those concepts and make them my own based on my knowledge. And so, and to answer your second question about how people can get started, I would just say, look at what others are doing, whether within the legal industry or beyond, and experiment. You know, you don't have to get it right. You don't the most important thing is to start and get this creativity process going. But I've seen now in the legal industry, people doing icebergs and burgers as well. So yeah, some people have started to do it.
I love seeing it, because anything that can make law more fun and accessible, I think is a good thing. I went to a webinar by the Marketing Meetup a few weeks ago, and it was how to make social media fun for boring industries, I think it was called. And they said, like, look at what your ideal customers are doing, because if you work in a, you know, an industry that's perceived as boring, your ideal clients are probably going to be more creative than you. So go and see, like, how do they like to be spoken to? I really like memes. They're something I'm working on implementing into my social media, because I find them really, really fun, and how you can just convey such a strong emotion and message in a picture in 3 words. I just think it's great.
Yeah. Memes are powerful. My only reservation, I would say, with memes is that it's really for entertainment. So every piece of content is associated with an objective. So you can either inspire or entertain or inform, etc., and influence. But I think the memes would really fall under the entertaining category, where it's a bit more light touch and you connect with your audience in a very different way. I personally wouldn't post memes on a daily basis just for the sake of, you know, entertaining people. That's not my job. My job is to really educate on standing out with visual content for the legal industry. So this is where I think having this right balance of content is important. But memes are like really attention grabbing, and they do have a place in a content strategy, but it's just about how do you kind of measure everything.
The word you just used there, content strategy, let's break that down for a minute, because to me, a content strategy is gold. It's what I implement for my clients. It's what I create for them. Because without a content strategy, you sit down every day and you just have no idea what you're going to do. Your content is sporadic. You might, you know, post memes every day, be really entertaining. Oh, wow, she does these amazing memes, but no one's going to buy anything because they don't know what you're selling. And they don't know if you're good at it or not.
Yeah.
How important is having a content strategy?
Critical. It is, you know, this is what I tell my clients, like, I've wasted years of my life without realizing, obviously, but in hindsight, you know, I've wasted years not being, I mean, basically, I would have been in a very different place today if I had a content strategy when I first started in 2018. Obviously, at the time, I didn't know. I was just posting because I loved, you know, making the legal industry a better place. And I just posted out of passion. But the passion alone isn't enough to build a sustainable brand that is going to last and grow over time. So I would say that, yeah, if I had a content strategy, my outcomes and where I would have been today would have been very different. I would have been much further ahead if I had been strategic, if I didn't change mediums, if I didn't just, you know, if I didn't make all the mistakes I've made. But equally, you know, you just live and learn, and all the things I've done wrong are the things that I now obviously tell my client not to do, and obviously they are being a lot more a lot stronger in their results, because they aren't doing all the things I've done. So it's absolutely paramount. You have to know what is it that you want to talk about and what is it that you want to be known for. At the end of the day, if I start tomorrow talking about, you know, life as an in-house counsel, as I did, or, you know, life as a junior lawyer, as I did, and you just start changing all the time, then people are confused. Like, they don't know what to reach out to you for. So you really have to be mindful of that and pick this one or two things that you want to stand out for. Because at the end of the day, expertise builds credibility.
Yes. And that's one of the mistakes that I've made on social media time and time again. Only recently, my Instagram account. So my LinkedIn's strategic. I have a proper content strategy. That's where my business comes from, and I keep that. I do that pretty properly. Instagram's more for me just for fun, and it's more about general life. So I wasn't being consistent with topics, but at the same time, I wasn't too bothered about growing my account. But then I started to think, if I'm going to put all this time into a social media platform, I should be trying to grow my account. I should be trying to do something with that and making an impact. So I've now changed that now to more kind of law studenty stuff. So I've got a different outlet, you know, to find community with people who are studying kind of early stage in their legal careers, which is nice. So yeah, it's kind of having that focus. We're out of time. So if we've got like a couple more minutes of your time, Sarah, I just want to ask you, how can you help legal professionals to build their personal brand? What can they come to you for help with?
So the number one thing I do with legal professionals is my visual content mastery program. So I basically empower legal professionals to stand out themselves, especially on LinkedIn. So my program is really LinkedIn friendly. And I have this coaching program that runs for 3 months where they basically learn all the things I've been learning myself in order for them to establish their profile and authority within their practice area. So, and again, it's really focused on visualization of legal information, because this is what I live and breathe. This is what I strongly believe in, and this is what has made me successful myself. So this is so I have one program that deals with that for legal professionals, and I do help law firms as well who want to implement this kind of strategy for their firms as well. And kind of move away from the, you know, everyday articles and all the other things that, you know, they've been perhaps historically doing.
Yes. The stuff that sometimes you just don't really want to read because it's quite long and wordy. They have their place, but
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I know what I would be doing if I was starting a law firm. You know, you can try and figure it all out yourself, take years, waste, you know, I've thousands of hours really to figure it all out yourself, or go and find somebody who really knows what they're doing, like Sarah, and learn it in 3 months.
Yeah, this is, and you know, and opportunities have a cost, you know, all that time that you could spend doing other things.
Yes.
You know, sometimes, I think, especially in our industry, we aren't really into upskilling. This is not something that we've been doing because, you know, we are lawyers, you know, we've been to law school and we've had our degree and this is it. And then, you know, your professional growth almost stops in terms of, you know, learning new skills at that particular point. And then experience kind of takes over. But at the end of the day, if you want to sustain long term, you really have to look at what are the other skills that I need as a legal professional to really survive as the new competition comes in, as the industry landscape changes, as roles potentially change as well. What if you're fired tomorrow? Then what? You know, what do you have left? So I spend personally, I've spent 15,000 this year alone just to upskill, because I just realized that I hadn't really before. Before, it's all been self-learning, self-development, and there is so much self-learning can give you. You know, sometimes you have to invest, you have to go for the right people who've been there, done that, who can save you that, as you said, you know, those years, those thousands of hours, because, and I've made all the mistakes in order for you to not do them.
It's that entrepreneurial mindset, which is why I love working with startups. It's just totally different, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I love it. Being in the fast water rather than the stagnant water.
Yeah, absolutely. And pivot. Because at the end of the day, you know, the industry is going to change, and at a much faster pace that it has ever been over the last few decades, really, where everything was pretty much static, where law firms had a monopoly, and and you pretty much had no choice in the market. Now you have alternative legal service providers. We live in an information overload era where everything is available on Google. So legal information is a commodity. It's no longer the sacred knowledge that only law firm used to have. So you have to be able to survive and thrive in this environment. And one way of doing that is obviously making sure that you're always on top of mind when people need a particular service.
Yeah, and what better way of doing that than popping up on their social media feed?
Absolutely.
Consistently with great content.
And that's it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I've really enjoyed this. I will continue to read everything you post because I think it's just so creative, and the legal industry, the more fun and accessible we can make it, the better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Daisy. I love that, you're on this journey on developing personal brands for lawyers, because I think this is something they genuinely need. And if this is something that, can make a difference in their career, I'm glad that, you are able to drive the change.
Thank you. That's what I want to do, in my own small little corner of legal LinkedIn. If I can help lawyers to be more personal, more accessible, and just more fun, human, all those things, I think it makes a big difference, because then we can connect with people human to human, rather than perpetuating these stereotypes of the heartless lawyer, as Scott Simmons posted about yesterday. So we can break down those barriers.
Absolutely.